Hi guys, welcome back to Technobot. Today we'll be doing a comparison test between the Asus Zenfone 4 and the Xiaomi Redmi 2. So let's start with the display. The Asus Zenfone 4 has a 4.5-inch screen with of 854 by 480 pixel screen. It uses TFT technology, which does not offer very great viewing angles. However, the screen is quite bright, so outdoor visibility will not be too much of a problem. Now, moving on to the Redmi 2. The Redmi 2 has a great screen. It's a 4.7-inch LCD IPS screen with 1280 by 720 resolution. It has a good pixel density and the viewing angles are great. Outdoor visibility is great thanks to the bright screen. Overall, the Redmi 2 has a much better screen. Now, moving on to the hardware. The Asus Zenfone 4 is the better looking phone here. The Asus Zenfone 4 has design touches that set it apart from phones in its price range, such as the metallic clip at the bottom. The Asus Zenfone 4 also has a rounded back and good holding capability, so it's easier to hold even though it is a little thicker than the Redmi 2. It's not that the Redmi 2 is bad looking, it's just that it looks too ordinary in comparison to the Zenfone 4. Now looking at the internal specifications and software of the two devices, the Redmi 2 is powered by a 1.2 GHz Snapdragon 410 quad-core processor which uses 64-bit architecture along with 1 GB of RAM. It currently runs Android KitKat with MIUI 6 running on top of it. The Asus Zenfone 4 is powered by a 1.2 GHz Intel Atom dual-core processor with 1 GB of RAM. It runs Asus Zen UI on top of Android KitKat. On paper, it looks like the Redmi 2 has the advantage. Now, coming to actual performance, the Asus Zenfone 4 has very smooth performance with great response. We experience very little lag in day-to-day activities. In terms of gaming, it was able to run high-end games such as Asphalt 8 and Dead Trigger 2, though we did experience some frame drops. Overall, its performance is very impressive considering its price. The performance of the Redmi 2 surprised us. While it was smooth enough by swiping between screens and using regular apps such as calling, messaging and WhatsApping, it didn't have very great performance when it came to handling games. We had to run Dead Trigger 2 on the low graphics settings and the device began to heat up after just 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. This surprised us as the phone has great internals more powerful than that of the Zenfone. After some poking around, we realized that the Redmi 2 was having problems with its RAM management. The reason we feel is that the MIUI consumes a lot more RAM than Zen UI, resulting in the phone lagging when too many apps were running. So in terms of real-world performance, the Asus Zenfone 4 is the winner. Both the devices come with 8 GB of internal storage and are expandable up to 32 GB. Coming to connectivity, the Asus Zenfone 4 has dual SIM 3G and Bluetooth 4. The Redmi 2 impressed us with its dual 4G capable SIMs, so in terms of connectivity, the Redmi 2 wins by quite a big margin. Looking at the camera on board, the two devices, the Asus Zenfone 4 has an 8 megapixel rear camera and a 0.3 megapixel front camera, while the Redmi 2 has an 8 megapixel rear camera and 2 megapixel front camera. In terms of camera performance, the Asus Zenfone 4 provided more natural colors and greater clarity than the Redmi 2. However, the Redmi 2 does not experience shutter lag which the Zenfone 4 suffers from. Low light photography performance is better on the Zenfone 4. So, in terms of camera, we will give it to the Zenfone 4. Lastly, in terms of the battery, the Asus Zenfone 4 has a 1750 mAh battery and the Redmi 2 has a larger 2200 mAh battery. The Redmi wins this by a massive margin as it lasted 8.5 hours in our video loop test, while the Zenfone 4 lasted just 6 hours. So, to sum it up, both phones have advantages and disadvantages. The Asus Zenfone 4, which is priced at Rs 5,999, has better performance, camera and build quality along with being easier to hold, but it suffers from a poor screen and an average battery. The Redmi meanwhile has an edge in terms of display, connectivity and battery. If you are on a tight budget and want a phone mainly for gaming, the Asus Zenfone 4 is a better bet. However, the Redmi 2 is a better all-rounder and the added advantage of 4G makes it the winner of this comparison test.